But so I'm thinking about some of this stuff when I'm on the road, and that, like I said, it's kind of a theme trying to decide, will I continue to eat meat? And I kind of knew that maybe I shouldn't. At least that was the initial standpoint of if I shouldn't, then let's determine that and let's somehow change our activity, our willpower, use it over our desires in order to change our behavior in such a way that we wouldn't have enough desire to make it necessary that we would go out and find and eat meat. And kind of the main animal there that we were addressing in that sense was the cow, was beef. It seemed to be one of the larger, smarter, more prevalent forms of meat that we raise and eat, although the pig and sheep and goat are also similar. Deer, we don't raise them, but we eat them. And then lots of fowl, birds, chicken, duck, turkey, goose, dove, grouse. But not thinking of them as much as the red meat of the beef of the cow, and there being a mammal, there being a little closer to us on the tree of life, perhaps being a little more intelligent than some of the others, more intelligent perhaps than some of the fish or birds, other animals that we ate. And so kind of being the pinnacle, if you can address beef and cut out beef, that's a big step. And in some cases, that may be all that the person decides not to eat and continues to eat other meat, and it's just healthier for them because beef's also one of the ones that has, I believe, a fair amount of fat and cholesterol and other things that doctors say, don't eat beef. So I was trying to address it from that standpoint. And all these travels, walking along the road, I've come across many farms or ranches that raise cattle, beef, to eat. And so while I'm walking along that fence for so many hours of that day, I'm looking out there at the cows. I really like steak. I really like hamburgers. Cheeseburgers are my favorite foods. Really like cheeseburgers. I like beef liver. I like beef ribs. And it was I would just pass it off as coming straight out of my desire to eat those forms of beef. Beef roast beef, ribeye, prime rib, various cuts of beef that I had grown up with eating, and I'd pass it off just coming out of my desire to continue to eat because of the flavor. The flavor being the overriding force, reason for me to continue to eat it. Now, obviously, there's a certain amount of nutrients you get out of beef. I don't know that it's a lot more than any other meat. I don't know that the experience of eating the meat in a certain way does something else to you beyond the flavor. I believe it does make you feel full. I believe if you're eating a great big juicy cheeseburger, you just got a smile on your face. A great big steak, it makes you feel good in ways that goes beyond the flavor, the texture, the chewing. So there are other reasons than the flavor, but the flavor is kind of one of the main reasons. And almost purely for that, I made the decision that it was alright. We've always eaten meat. We may yet always eat meat, as long as humans are humans. Like a tiger, like a lion, like a bobcat, like a puma, like a jaguar, like a bear, like a dog, crocodile, great white shark. So many animals exist. And I believe, in a sense, of pure innocence of their natural form. That's just how they are. They eat other animals, and in some cases, it's a good thing. They're helping the other animals' herd stay more alive. If they're eating the slower, weaker, sickly ones, the stronger ones survive and go on to have more offspring, and that makes the general genetic pool a little bit stronger of that particular herd. So to some degree, it's a good thing. It's not good for the one that's getting eaten, but on the other hand, if you live to a nice old age and then just have a heart attack, or you have some other fall and break your leg, or some other problem that kills you without being killed, I don't know that that form of death is much more kind or gentle or better than one that brings you down with claws and teeth, or with a bullet, or with some of the techniques they use at slaughterhouses, and I've heard some are pretty bad. So I don't know that I can defend one form of killing over another. I read some information about the electric chair and how it was supposed to be, it was touted as being, reported as being more humane way to kill people than hanging or gas chamber or firing squad, or beheading. I think were the main kind of ways, the guillotine ways we had of killing people around the turn of the century when the electric chair came into being. He said, well, it kills you like that and you don't feel anything. Right. Thousands of volts going through your body. You probably feel like a piece of bacon right when it hits the hot, searing hot frying pan and it starts crackling and popping. That's probably what it feels like. Put your hand on that thing right when you're starting your bacon to fry like that, sizzle. Set your hand down there on that pan right beside the bacon. See how that feels. It's not gonna feel good. So don't really do that, really, seriously. You'll seriously burn yourself. And so electric chair is even worse than that because it so seriously burns you. Well, electrocutes you. It's a different process, but it's so serious and probably so painful that it kills you. You don't die just instantly. You know, there's at least seconds while the current is going through your body. But I digress. So here I am walking along the highway, getting away from the electric chair. Put that aside. Back to talking about whether I should eat meat or not, and one of my themes along the road while I was traveling along the road when I was young. And looking at it and kind of talking, mentally talking to the cows out in the field. Oh, I just love you. I love you as cheeseburgers, as porterhouse steaks, as filet mignon. And trying to decide whether it was morally imperative enough that I stop eating meat, and making that a life decision. And coming to the decision that I just love it too much. I love the flavor, I love the experience, the chewing, the various ways it can be prepared, prepared, the various ways it can be fixed for different dishes, and the health benefit that you get from it, the nutrition, and quite possibly that's not as much good for you as other things you can eat, but there are benefits that you get from eating beef that other foods and such may not give you as much of, or may not be as easy to get from other foods. But people live perfectly well without having to eat beef, so that's not as much an issue. But so I also have been exposed to a few instances where I'd come close to death before going on the road. I had a few close to death, near death experiences before even going on the road, so I wasn't completely a stranger to that. Surely when you're approaching something like that, the fear is tremendous if you're aware that you're treading close to death. And that alone can be just awful. Just if you're in fear for your life, or even if you're just afraid of getting hurt, afraid of an accident. I was in a car accident, one of them. And I can remember, as we were going off the road, the car had skidded and started to go off into the woods, seeing the little saplings popping and breaking down and hitting across the windshield and stuff. Car just careening, running into the woods. And looking over at the driver, I was in the passenger seat of a Plymouth Duster. It's like a 1973 or 72, maybe 74, I guess. Plymouth Duster. So they had a long bench seat, one of the last muscle cars like that. And didn't have my seatbelt on, which then was just a little lap belt anyway. But I didn't have anything to grab onto either. I'm just sort of shifting back and forth in the front seat. He's holding on to the steering wheel, but I got nothing. And I look at him and I think, oh man, we're going to die. I'm going to die. And just being so totally in fear, not really feeling much out. So it was real noisy too. Hard to describe. It's just so loud and crashing that your ears are on overload, your vision is on overload, your whole body is starting to shut down because it's just in sheer terror. And there were a couple other incidences, but when you're that afraid, like I said, you're really shutting down. Unless your ability to perceive reality is being turned off by the brain, or whatever system in the brain that helps preserve you. I don't know how people feel about religion and whether there's a God or guardian angels or that kind of thing, but perhaps there's some sort of intervention like that as well. I kind of felt a little close to that at times when experiencing these near-death experiences, so I would give that credit too if that's possible. I'm not even sure in what form that kind of care or preservation or whatever would take, how you were protected.